Welcome to Digi Time with Izzy
and Mimi,
where we'll be discussing our unsolicited opinions on books, TV shows, films, and anything in between.
On this episode, we are going to be discussing The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. We will be going into details about the story and what happens throughout the book, so this is your warning, there will be spoilers.
Disclaimer, this video will be discussing topics and media that may include graphic violence and adult situations that may not be suitable for those under the age of 18. Viewers and listeners' discretion is advised.
Quick summary of the book. It is a retelling by Madeline Miller regarding the relationship between Patroclus and Achilles based on friendship, romance, before and during the Trojan War. The book is told in Patroclus' point of view. He's the narrator of this story. So you do get his upbringing and how he ended up becoming a friend of Achilles, how he ends up there with him, and their friendship that develops. They spend a lot of time in their childhood and then training together up until they both have to go to the war. And they spend several years there continuing their relationship, both friendship and romantic, up until the end. Let's get right into it. I'm so excited for this one because it is a beautiful story.
I really did enjoy this book as well. In a way, I slightly wish that it was a little longer, so we could have spent more time with these characters. One moment they're kids, the next moment they're adults, and it was just felt a little fast paced for me, at least at the very beginning.
So the book does start off with Patroclus. He was a little sickly and like scrawny. He wasn't the quote unquote son that the king wanted. So he already didn't have a really good relationship with his father, kind of a disappointment. And then he is exiled from the kingdom when he kills his bully on accident in self-defense.
Yeah, and his Patroclus. I'm sorry, I have trouble pronouncing his name. I keep saying Patronicus.
No, this is Patrick.
His father wasn't upset that he murdered a boy, whether it was self-defense or not. He was just upset that he didn't lie about it and blame someone else.
But he is taken in by Achilles' father, the king of Thea, King Peleus. Apparently he takes in a bunch of stray kids. They imply later is that he trains these boys to be soldiers for him. That is where he meets Achilles. They're both such the opposite types, where Patroclus is very introverted and
reserved.
With all the recent trauma that he experienced, well, first of all, like being neglected and not wanted by his father, and then the accidental murder of another boy. He's going through it, at such a young age. And then he meets Achilles, who is charismatic, who is beloved, like kind of extroverted a little bit.
Very gorgeous, very beautiful.
And of course he is prophesized to be this legend, this warrior of a man. He no longer is a prince since he is exiled, so he no longer has a title or land or anything to his name.
Pretty much becomes a nobody.
Achilles being prince makes him like his official like companion, kind of like right-hand man that every king has. So he steps into that role. So they start doing everything together, which is so sweet. That's where their friendship starts. And it's sweet and innocent. After a few years of them living together and doing trainings, music, just living their life on the beach, Patroclus starts having confusing feelings for Achilles. Like, he knows he admires him a lot. They're a bit older at this point. They're like teenagers, hormones are coming around, especially all the boys in the kingdom are
into girls. Patroclus is not experiencing that. The only time he's experiencing anything similar is when he looks at Achilles.
And then Patroclus kisses Achilles. That night he goes to talk to his mother, and that's when he doesn't come back. Turns out that she has sent him away to train with Chiron, the centaur, leaving Patroclus by himself. I thought it was so sweet though that in him finding out that Achilles was gone, he's like, I can't stay here by myself without him. But he just decides to run off, doesn't even know where. He just starts walking and leaves without anything after him. And then it turns out that Achilles was waiting for him.
Definitely kicking my feet worthy.
I was like, oh, I thought this was gonna be like a point where they get separated and they don't see each other for years or something. But then yeah, it turns out that that he waited for him and he takes him with him, and they end up spending the time in his training, and they spend it with Chiron, in which seems to be like probably was some of the happiest times of their life.
That was where they were building the majority of their more personal relationship.
Yeah, especially because it was just the three of them. It was just Patroclus, Achilles, and Chiron. And Chiron always had them in duty, so he wasn't like a supervisor or a parent that was keeping an eye on them. So they were free to just hang out, have fun without judgment. After a couple years there, Achilles finds out that because of where it's located, his mom, Thetis, can't see him there. She can't actually watch him like she did when he was in the palace or his kingdom. After all this little bliss, they get word that Helen of Sparta is taken to Troy by the Prince Paris. Whether she was stolen or went on her own, nobody ever knows. Depends how the story is told. At the beginning of the book, they all pledged an oath to protect whoever Helen had chosen for a husband. Achilles' father makes the oath, but because Achilles is destined to be the warrior, he's supposed to go in his dad's place in this war to fulfill that oath. His mother, Thetis, comes to warn him about him. She does not want him to go to this war because she knows the prophecy that Zeus told her that Achilles will die young and he will die in the war. He will be a legend, but he will die young. Thetis comes to warn him, and she's trying to avoid him going to war. She instead decides to send him off to the island of Skyros, where he is forced to dress as a woman and hide. When he is taken again, leaving Patroclus behind, and Patroclus has to find out where he's at
because he was never told.
It takes a while, but he finds out where he's at, and he manages to get himself to that island. And when he gets there, he not only finds Achilles
disguised as a woman, tricked everyone. Everyone thought he was a beautiful, gorgeous.
Apparently, he makes a very beautiful woman.
So anyone who thinks that Achilles was this big, buff, John Cena looking dude in a blonde wig, disguised as a princess, no, that's not what Achilles looked like. So he had very feminine features. He was beautiful. He was a strong fighter.
People mistake that he was a good fighter for meaning that he was a big buff guy and had strength. No, his strength was in the way he could fight and move. That's what allowed him to be a great warrior on the field. When we arrive to the island, we not only find him dressed as a woman, but then it turns out that he's married to the princess Didamaya. So we find that not only is he dressed as a woman, but he is also married to the princess Didamaya. And of course, Patroclus gets jealous because he tries to claim Achilles. And Achilles is saying, "Oh no, Patroclus is my husband.
Yeah, my husband came to get me. I'm ready to leave."
The cherry on top, Princess Didamaya says, "I'm pregnant."
Like, no! At first when she started freaking out, I thought she had a crush on him. She's upset that this is not who she thought it was, and she's mad like, no, you can't be guy.
But we find out the truth. It's because Achilles' mom, this was her plan. Achilles unfortunately doesn't love the poor girl.
He was lied to. His mom lied to him and told him that he would bring Patroclus to him. And he's like, no, your mom never told me where you were. I had to find you. She lied to him. She's like, do this, and if you pretty much want to see him again. She lied. She's a liar. You're a liar, Fred.
They get to spend a little bit more time together again. I believe they're on that island for about a year. Until the day that Odysseus and Agamemnon show up. They pull another little trick and they find Achilles hiding within the women. And then they go, oh shit, and Patroclus, you're here too. Yeah. You also swore an oath. You gotta go too. We got a war to go to. I want to say maybe about half of the book is them starting to deal with the war. 10 years. I did not know it was 10 years of this war, which is brutal. Again, 10 years of all of these men on the shore, because they couldn't even breach the walls. So they're just, raiding the lands on the outside and torturing these poor people that are still out there, and raiding their homes, stealing the women, which is how they get
Briseis.
Your favorite character.
I mean, I feel like I connected to her the most out of everybody.
This version of her, I loved her. So Briseis is from the lands on the outside of the Trojan walls. When the soldiers pillage and raid and steal, they bring women that they find, unfortunately, captive. Briseis is one of them. And then Patroclus, in seeing this poor woman
and knowing what they're gonna do to her,
he convinced Achilles to take her in, like
claim her as his prize. That way they can protect her.
Achilles claims her, and they take her in, and they try to make her feel as comfortable as possible because she's obviously frightened.
She's scared. She doesn't know what they're gonna do to her.
They have a language barrier.
They can't really communicate with her, and they can barely understand each other. And they're trying to get her to understand, like, no, we're not gonna hurt you. We're not going to view the way these men were going to do to you. Pretty much had to be like, look, this is my boyfriend. See, we're not gonna touch you. We're just gonna touch each other.
The only way to convince her was like, okay, we're gonna kiss.
One of my favorite things was seeing the bond between Patroclus. Patroclus?
No! This is Patrick!
Patroclus and Briseis. I loved their bond and their friendship. Part of the book that I wasn't expecting. I didn't remember or know too much about this going in, so I did not know about, Briseis and Patroclus and just Achilles. And
because Achilles is aware of the prophecy that because his mother told him the prophecy that he is destined to die during this war, and he is to die shortly after Hector's death, which is Prince Hector of Troy. He even promises Patroclus, like, this man did nothing to me. I'm not gonna fight him. I'm gonna avoid him at all costs, especially if I am destined to die after his death, then it definitely won't be at my hands. So the story definitely pushes the narrative that the battle and the war lasts 10 years because Achilles refused to fight Hector all these years. A lot of the other generals and kings are constantly asking Achilles, why don't you just fight Hector already? Because Hector already himself is a strong soldier that everybody's scared of. They know that he is a great warrior. He will kill anybody else in battle, and the only one to rival him is Achilles. All this time spending in this war, Agamemnon definitely sees himself as the one in charge, and he kind of technically is.
Very prideful, very egotistical and arrogant.
And he is mad when Achilles stands up to him because they're starting to get like the plague, and a lot of bad things are happening because they angered the gods. And because Achilles kind of questions him and blames it on him, like, oh, this is your fault. He takes that as a threat, doesn't like that Achilles doesn't, pledge oath to him, basically. Take his orders. Doesn't give him the respect that he feels he's entitled to. And so he decides to steal Briseis away from them. And when he does that, Achilles gets so upset and lets his pride definitely take over. Yes, not because he was attached to Briseis as much as Patroclus was. And yeah, he was upset, but he was mostly just...
It was a hit to his pride.
And his ego that another king could just come and take what is rightfully his, a prize of his. He refuses to have his men fight. So the Greeks are down, a bunch of their people on their side. So they start losing, and the Trojans get the upper hand. And it's not until the Trojans start burning their ships, and Patroclus is like, wait, a lot of our men are dying. They're sick. There's so many. We're so overwhelmed.
Everybody who's there fighting side by side with Achilles, Achilles is pretty much also letting his pride take over the fact that, oh, well, none of these men stood up and, for me either, but they agree with you, but at the same time, like, there's not much they can do.
It's not until Patroclus comes begging Achilles, like, you need to fight, you need to get back in this, only you can help everyone, you can save this war. Achilles very stubbornly still refuses to. He convinces him to let him use his armor and go out in battle for him. He's like, if people believe I'm you, they're gonna think they'll regain their spirits and rally, and we can start fighting again, because a lot of the men stopped wanting to fight because they were losing. A lot of them wanted to go home. It's been 10 years. These guys are tired.
Go home to their families if their families are still there.
And Achilles lets him know, like, you can go out there, but don't get into battle. Definitely don't go near the wall where you'll be a target. Just get everybody back into fighting spirits and then come back. Once he wears the armor and everybody rallies behind him, he
Starts getting hyped up.
and then he starts killing men, and he's like, oh my god, I'm amazing. He lets it definitely go to his head and lets it get to his head. I think I can end this war. If I can get up this wall, get inside of Troy, I can bring out Helen and we can end this war. The gods play a big role in all of this, which I feel like always gets left out in any kind of retelling. I love when the gods get involved because they are so messy. They're messy bitches.
They literally just treat humans as like pawns for their sick games because they're so bored. They're so prideful and egotistical and arrogant and jealous and just
Because they're immortal and divine beings with abilities, so they see mortals as less than. Apollo stops Patroclus from scaling the walls, not once, not twice, but 3 times, plucking him basically off the wall and tossing him on the floor. The times when the gods go down to earth, they're always disguised as another person, an animal. They're always disguised as something. They never show up as themselves. But this one, Apollo, he shows up as himself and is like,
Hey, get out of here!
Patroclus, you need to stop climbing this fucking wall. And unfortunately, that is when Hector sees him in Achilles' armor, thinks it's Achilles, and he kills Patroclus.
end of book. The end.
Cut the show. I'm done.
He died, and then he continues narrating the rest of the book from beyond the grave.
When I realized that he was still narrating because his spirit hasn't continued on to the underworld, is because in his grief and pain, Achilles refuses to burn his body, which is a custom that they do, that they burn their dead and then they bury the ashes. Achilles is so distraught that he refuses to burn the body, and he keeps the body in his tent.
He didn't want to let go. He was grieving so hard he was refusing to let go, especially because he did feel so guilty for his death and responsible for it. And that's where he's realizing that he really messed up and he let his pride, just pretty much his pride is what led to this.
And in that rage and anger, he goes after Hector.
Hector!
And he kills Hector because he's so angry still. Instead of letting the Trojans, or King Priam, which is Hector's father, instead of letting them come collect Hector's body to burn him and give him his burial rites, he ties Hector to the back of his chariot and drags his body around the outside of the wall. So he drags the whole body and then takes it back also to his tent, because he refuses to give back the body. Yeah, until King Priam comes and begs for his son's body. And in talking to the king, he kind of realizes that, everyone deserves their burial rites in order to move on. He allows the king to take Hector's body back, and then he finally decides to let Patroclus get his burial rites, so he's burned. And which, this is another part that just got me, was when he cries out and says that his wishes are that when he dies, he wants their ashes to be mixed together and buried together with both of their names on the same tombstone.
You see that he loved Patroclus as much as Patroclus loved him. At that point, he's over it. There's no point in me living anymore. Why do I care if I die?
Then Prince Paris, Hector's younger brother, shoots him with an arrow and he dies. With the help of the god Apollo, Paris shoots his arrow and it goes straight for Achilles' heart. And it still doesn't end there.
The end, I can't even describe the anger that I felt, the way I cried out of anger. After this, I was livid. I was fuming over the fact that Achilles' wishes weren't being listened to by his son.
His son Pyrrhus shows up at the end to help the Greeks win the war. He gets there for the whole Trojan horse situation. They get inside the walls and they take down the city. After the war, his son He refuses to honor Achilles' wishes. He is definitely what Thetis wished Achilles would have been. Pyrrhus definitely filled that mold for her. And again, because she raised him, because once the princess gave birth to that child, Thetis took him, raised him. So he definitely was brought up with her mentality, and he was a little B.
I hated him. The way he just came in and like, yeah, I'm Achilles' son. He just came in, refused to listen to truth from everyone when everybody's explaining to him Achilles and his wishes and his companion.
Your dad is gay.
Like looking at people like, why are you lying to me? This is not true. Like, no, this is a nobody. And then when even Briseis, he's like, well, you should know, like, you were obviously with my father. Like, he was obviously with you. You were his bed slave. Oh my god, the way I wanted to just like...
was a little bit happy when he informed him that, well, the ashes are already mixed together, so we already started part of this. Even if he didn't want to mix their ashes, he had no say in it anymore because they're already mixed. I'm like, ha ha.
He just assumed it was this nobody, and when they explained, like, he wasn't just a nobody, but not only was he very important to Achilles, like your father, and a big important part of this war, when King Agamemnon
Okay, don't hurt yourself.
Agamemnon. I can't pronounce this. And he came to Pyrrhus and told him, like, obviously me and your father weren't besties or anything, but his wishes should be honored, and these were his wishes. Like, this was his companion, this was a very important person, and he still refused it.
Yeah, so they bury Achilles with the mixed ashes, but they do not put Patroclus' name on the tombstone. This doesn't allow Patroclus to go to the underworld yet. So Achilles does, and Patroclus is still alone, wandering this realm, unable to go to the underworld. And then it gets to the last part, which broke my heart. So he runs into Thetis, grieving at Achilles' gravesite, and it isn't there until he finally gets to really, let her know not only their relationship, but just more about her son that she didn't get to see because of the way she was and the separation that they had because she was a nymph and lived in the ocean. So he shares all the wonderful memories that they had in their life, and in the end she adds Patroclus' name to the tombstone, and he's able to move on, where he reunites in the underworld with his beloved. Oh, and it was so beautiful. I cried so much.
That last line in the book, just to summarize, like, that love that they had for each other when they're finally together at the end. In the darkness, two shadows reaching through the hopeless heavy dusk. Their hands meet and light spills in a flood like 100 golden urns pouring out the sun.
It was so beautiful.
And that is the greatest love story ever told.
It was so good. I loved it. It's an absolute beautiful love story between two people with opposite personalities. They develop a friendship that evolves into a strong bond of love and passion, where strong declarations aren't said in words, but in their actions. The fact that I knew the fate of both Patroclus and Achilles before starting this book, and it still had me in tears by the end, that is what I consider great storytelling and amazing writing.
I really don't have much critique to say. Usually I'm very opinionated. I wasn't too familiar with the whole lore of Achilles and his story. The most I knew about Achilles is literally just like the whole Achilles heel and then whatever the Troy movie was. Literally the only gripe I have with this book is just that I wish it was a little bit longer. Other than that, I really don't have much to say. I really enjoyed the book. I really liked it. I thought it was written beautifully. I really enjoyed this from start to finish. I definitely would recommend, and I thought it was such a beautiful and tragic love story.
I ended up giving this book a 4.7 stars out of 5.
I rated this one 4 stars. Thank you for listening to our unsolicited opinions on the Song of Achilles, which once again, nobody asked and nobody cares, but some might relate.
And let us know what you guys thought. Drop down a comment, and your thoughts if you've read this book, and your thoughts on what we had to say. If you agreed, if you disagreed, let us know.
Please don't roast us for pronunciations of certain names.
It's hard for some people!
We took better notes this time and just confirmed that we were speaking about the correct characters and we weren't completely changing their names.
Thank you guys, and hopefully you'll join us for our next
Episode of Unsolicited Opinions. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.